coming in January 2024.
So when they got together to write the Constitution, it is absolutely no surprise that so many of the clauses we find in the Constitution are literal, direct quotations out of the Bible. Today we're told, oh no, Constitution's secular. No, just because they didn't put a chapter and verse by it doesn't mean it wasn't a Bible verse. Check the language of the Constitution against the Bible and you go, that is an exact quote.
That was David Barton. For over 30 years, he has used false and questionable claims to promote the idea that America was founded as a Christian nation in covenant with God. To some, he's a hero. However, most historians reject his approach.
I think you are one of the most important men alive today. I think you and your wife, Cheryl, have done more to save our country than most people alive, because you have been preserving its history for a very long time.
The accurate but not very friendly description would be a propagandist, because that's what he does. He starts with a conclusion, and then he bends everything to get to that conclusion.
In 2012, for a short time, something changed. Even some evangelical leaders questioned Barton's historical accuracy. There were consequences.
I'm John Stonestreet with The Point. A few weeks ago, David Barton of Wall Builders and frequent guest on the Glenn Beck Show published a book called The Jefferson Lies, exposing myths you've always believed about Thomas Jefferson. But many historians think that it's Barton's book that's full of myths and inaccuracies about our third president. In fact, Dr. Jay Richards, a recent guest with me on Breakpoint this week, asked 10 Christian historians to assess Barton's work. Their responses were pretty negative, and now Barton's publisher has taken the book out of print and apologized.
It didn't take long for Barton to get his status back. He even started calling himself America's premier historian. This is Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
I was introduced to David and his ministry a quarter century ago, and it has had such a profound influence on me and my work and my life and everything I do.
Telling Jefferson Lies chronicles how history can be hijacked for ideological and political purposes. We begin with the extraordinary story of how David Barton's best-selling book about Thomas Jefferson was pulled from publication due to historical errors. This is also a much broader story about the consequences of believing myths and failing to get history right.
So the consequences of whitewashing history are that we wash out the truth. And if we wash out the truth, we break the first link in the chain to authentic reconciliation. So without truth, we can't confess. And if we can't confess, then we can't repent or repair. And if we can't repent or repair, then we cannot reconcile. And maybe that's a big reason why, as we record this in 2023, we are still talking about the crisis of racism in the United States.
When we tell a story about the American founding that reduces the American founding to more or less a political expression of a certain kind of Protestant Christianity, right? Not Protestant Christianity generally, heaven forbid, but this specific kind of Protestant Christianity, then we collapse the distinction between our religious beliefs and the political community that we live in. And it causes us not to recognize that the same rights claims that we make on behalf of our rights can be made on behalf of other people in reverse.
Knowing the history matters. How can we change the future if we don't understand how we got here?
Subscribe to the podcast Telling Jefferson Lies today, wherever you get your podcasts.